What's up guys, today we're looking at the iPhone 16 Pro. I've had it for some time and have been able to test it extensively, have my everyday experiences with it, and show you in this video how good this iPhone is. The headlining new features include a new camera control that is operated using a new button, slightly better camera, better battery performance, and a larger display. So when we unbox the device, the first thing we see is the iPhone, and underneath there is the charging cable, a few warranty notes, and the needle for the SIM card. In terms of design, the 16 Pro hasn't changed at all compared to its predecessor, the 15 Pro. We have a frame made of titanium with a matte finish, and the edges are slightly rounded so that it is comfortable to hold, and it definitely does. The weight of 199 grams is well distributed across the entire device and hasn't really bothered me at any point so far, even though it's 12 grams heavier than the 15 Pro. I personally thought that Apple's decision to make the edges matte again was a good decision, because it makes fingerprints much less visible than a glossy edge would have done. In general, build quality and feel is of the highest that you can get from a smartphone at this price, and it should be. I think most people will like the iPhone 16 Pro once they've held it in their hands. On the left side is the action button and the volume buttons, and on the right side, as usual, we have the standby button and the newly added button for the camera control. This button is really only intended for operating the camera, and I'll show you how it works now. It's a physical button that you can click and that has a touch-sensitive surface. This means that you can not only press this button but also swipe it back and forth. The button can also detect whether you're pressing it lightly or harder. If you press the button harder, the camera opens and you can take a photo straight away by pressing the button a second time. If you keep the button pressed, you can also record a video right away. A light press on the button opens the currently selected control, and you can set the settings you want by swiping back and forth on the button. If you press the button lightly twice, a small menu opens. Here you can choose between different functions by swiping. To select the desired function, press the button lightly once and you can make the adjustment you want. It is definitely something you have to get used to and understand how it works. Whether this is really practical for you is something everyone has to decide for themselves. But I personally did not find it practical in some situations. I prefer to do some things on the screen, such as switching between cameras. You can of course also use it in portrait mode, but I found it a bit uncomfortable here. So it is definitely better if you use it in landscape mode. But if this button bothers you and you don't want to accidentally press it, you can change that in the settings. Here you can then choose that nothing happens when you press the button or which function you would like for it. Most people probably won't have noticed, but the display edges have become a little thinner and the iPhone itself has also grown a little in terms of dimensions, both in height and width. But you only notice this if you really compare the iPhone 15 Pro and 16 Pro directly with each other. The whole thing now has the advantage that we no longer have a 6.1 inch but a 6.3 inch display on the iPhone 16 Pro. And the iPhone 16 Pro Max has a screen area of 6.9 inches rather than 6.7. On the other hand, nothing has changed in terms of quality of the display. This means that as usual we have a high-resolution Retina display with a 120Hz refresh rate. As far as the cameras are concerned, I don't want to overwhelm you with technical details, but instead just show you a few pictures that I took with the new iPhone 16 Pro. Apple has done the usual thing like every year and made minor improvements, so in short, the ultra-wide angle camera and the macro lens also got 48 megapixel. Previously the predecessor only had 12 megapixel. The main camera can still take pictures with 48 megapixels. For most people and for me too, you don't see much difference at first glance compared to the previous iPhone models. You will probably only notice the difference if you zoom in on the pictures. One or two pictures will be more detailed and less blurred. But in general you can say that the 16 Pro naturally takes excellent pictures, both in daylight and in the dark. And here are a few more pictures that I took with the macro camera. The new iPhones can also now record videos in 4K at 120 FPS with the main camera, which was previously only possible at 60 FPS. Slow motion videos could of course be made before, but only with a full HD resolution and 240 FPS. But you can now also use the beautiful videos you record at 4K 120 FPS with a slow effect and high resolution. The batteries on the 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max are now larger, and together with certain improvements, we now have a longer battery life in general with the new iPhones. And I can say that I had probably the best battery life ever on an iPhone with the 16 Pro. I charged the 16 Pro to 100% in the morning, and at the end of the day, I still had around 60% left. So the battery lasted 2 days before I had to charge it again. But I also have to say that the battery life can be different for everyone depending on usage. With apps that require more power or simply generally drain the battery, the iPhone may need to be charged a little earlier for some people. But as far as the battery life is concerned, I am definitely very satisfied. Yes, and who would have thought that the iPhone 16 Pro has a new chip that offers better performance and is more efficient? But when it comes to normal everyday things, you don't notice any difference in performance compared to the predecessor. Whether it's switching between apps, gaming, watching videos, or scrolling through social media, everything runs very smoothly and smoothly as usual. What I can definitely say, however, is that the iPhone 16 Pro is very well equipped for the future and can of course also handle apps that need more power, especially with Apple Intelligence. If you have an iPhone from the last 3 to 4 years, you will also get almost all of the new iOS 18 functions through the new software updates. The prices of the iPhone 16 Pro start at $1,199 with 128 GB. If you want more storage, the price will increase accordingly. The colors for the Pro models this year are black titanium, white titanium, desert sand titanium, and natural titanium as I have it here. Otherwise, like the previous models, the iPhone 16 Pro has an always-on display, the dynamic island, and also crash detection. The edges are also thinner than any other iPhone that has ever existed. Write it to me in the comments which iPhone you use and how satisfied you are with it. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, then give it a like to let me know, and I'll see you in my next video.